Hi, 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 hi. Hello, hello. Hello, everyone. If you are joining me again, hi. I know it's been a while. I think the last time I was actually live and streaming anything was maybe a few weeks ago when I was streaming Stonehearth, and that was fun, but I kind of wanted to get back into, actual art habits here. So, give me continued moments while I get myself set up. I was ready, or at least I thought I was, but it's still a work in progress getting me together here, and hopefully I don't start knocking more stuff over. That would be hilarious. I want to use this as a... No, I need something else. I need something else. Hold that thought. Let's see if that helps a little bit. Yeah, actually it does. Just a little bit, but that's what we have to work with. Let me clear out some of these cords here that are just all up in the way. There we go. Here, you move that there. Okay. Hi. So, let's just jump right on into it. So, I have been away and not really doing much in the way of art and creation simply because the window's open and that's going to be an obnoxious sound to have to talk over. Simply because I've been going to school, working on getting my bachelor's degree, and that actually was the main thing that kind of kept me away from really doing as much streaming as I wanted to. I haven't even been able to really focus on my art in a while because of that, and trying to get accustomed to a new habit, new priorities. So, working on my comic story has really, really taken not even a back seat, it's been in the trunk. And so I have finally gotten to a new pattern just as the term is about to end. Go figure. So, but hey, I'm in a better place now. Today I should be also working on a paper, but I really, really, really wanted to do this today. So I just kind of pushed through it. I know what I'm capable of doing now. I know how to get things done. I know how to prioritize a little better. So I'm ready to jump on into, kind of getting back to normal working habits. And that means, yay, finally starting with this again. Aside from that, going to school and just, I won't even say I don't have time, it's just I can't really prioritize working on this while also trying to work on papers and homework assignments so that I can finish my degree. So I just put this off to the side and said, you know what, I will come back to this during the summer when I know that I'm going to have some time off from school, I'm actively taking time off from school instead of going to take classes again during the summer term. I'm going to be, working on this. So this will be where a lot of my free time will be going into when I get home from work. So I'm able to really get the ball rolling on that and get started with that. And I don't really think there has been anything else, no other developments. I think the website is down right now. That was another one of those unfortunate casualties of my inability to, kind of maintain this as well as work and school. And it's really unfortunate that I say that out loud, but that's really what has been happening. So, but like I said, I'm here now and I'm ready to get back to work. So let's just go ahead and do the thing. Alright, I'm also going to be very careful because I think if you have ever seen any one of my unfortunate attempts at streaming before, I have a tendency to get my head in the shot here. So sometimes as I'm leaning forward to draw something, you'll see my head just kind of appear on the screen. And I want to be better about that. The microphone is on. We have a lot of space. All I'm doing is drawing. All I'm doing is just some layout work. So let's go ahead and get right on into the work itself. I'm actually going to kill that camera. There we go. So now we can focus on the important things, which is making sure that this we have, we're focused on this and, you not so much on me. It's so funny because I realize that in some ways I really don't want to be on camera, even though I kind of do. I'm also going to pull out some of my old sketches. The last art stream that I did, we were looking at one of the comic strips that I had made a while ago called Heraclea, and I would love to go back into that. Unfortunately, that day is not today. So today, instead, we will just be focusing on the story that has really been the reason why I wanted to do any of this live streaming stuff in the first place. Give me a minute while I kind of go through my notes and my old sketches. So, in that last stream, we were looking at, this is Heraclea, and, we have page 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, so, as, we went through that, I explained the story and what was going on at the time with me and where the story was headed and what some things that I would like to do again. And, I'll kind of keep that up for this story as well. So as I was working on my original layouts for this story, I had managed to get through, about 20 pages of some really fun stuff. And, I was so happy with everything. I was so proud of it. I had even, we can go through some of these pages here. I had even done some work, like actually with the pages themselves, really laying things out. And it was great. And I thought, this is fantastic. I'm getting somewhere finally with this book, with this story that I feel really excited about. And then something kind of happened where, I said to myself as I was laying in bed one night and I started thinking about the story. I'm like, this is really great. Everything's fantastic. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it's not so much this wasn't an interesting story or an exciting story. I think it was exciting in its own way, and it really kind of set some things up that I did want to have happen, and then I thought about it and I said, you know what, maybe I don't want that story told that way. And that's why I keep going back to my layouts and my storyboards and my scripting. This is how I do my scripting for my books and my stories. And I like doing it this way because it allows me to visually tell the story to myself, so that, you know, I have that focus and everything is set up in mind, so that when I do my page layouts, like the actual pages, when I start sketching things down with my pencils, you know, the story's already there. All I have to, it's not really just tracing, it's, you know, the story's told and I know exactly what I'm drawing, and I can keep the story on task. I can keep myself focused on what I'm doing. And I didn't like that story as much anymore. And that was mostly because it was violent in a way that I didn't want it to be, and it set up a character that I haven't really developed as more of an antagonist than I wanted her to be. I wanted her to challenge, you know, the characters within the story, but it seemed to be that she was much more of, not even a villain, but just kind of this, I don't know, this almost anti-hero thing. And in that first issue, I didn't want that level of violence. You know, there was a scene in the layout where she comes up to the main character and just stabs him. I don't want that. And I realized I wanted something different, not just for her character, but for all of the characters involved. I wanted, you know, their relationship dynamic to change, to be different. I wanted to tell a different origin story for these characters. So, like I said, I had gotten through quite a bit of the actual, and I'll show you right here, I'd gotten through quite a bit of the actual page designs here, the sketches for each of the panels. You know, this was actually a really fun few pages to work on. You know, there was so much going on, so much activity, so much action, just so much of this really great drawings and just the fun stuff of creating new characters and new people. And I really wanted to continue playing around with that. And you know, these things are still good, but I don't know, I just felt kind of discouraged in a way. You know, it's not that this wasn't the story that I wanted to tell. It is, because, you know, I wanted a scene like this to happen where these characters are meeting for the first time and, you know, they're having their interaction, and obviously there is that the countering to the narrative, the challenge, you know, between these two characters and who they are to each other and what they'll be going through and how they all work together. And you know, there's some really great things here, but overall, I don't know that I was really feeling a lot of this story, and that's pretty much about where I stopped. So we got to page 13, and what I was doing with everything else here was really just going through my pencils and making sure that, I'm gonna crank this up a little bit so just to make sure that you can hear me. You know, going through everything here and saying, okay, well, you know, these characters, we're gonna play around with this. And I was just, you know, going through and making my pencil lines a little more bold. And then I got to this page here, and I think this is probably one of the reasons why I stopped working on the story, because I really just, even though the script was there, the story was there, I knew exactly what all the pages were, I realized that this section lost focus. I lost focus somewhere. I didn't really know what was happening here in these panels, or why it even did this, or, you know, I knew where this was going, but I didn't really know how this character here, you know, that character who is here now, and, you know, back here we look at her here, how she fit into what was happening in the later pages, you know. And I definitely was not a fan of this scene happening here, and then all of this going on, and then some of the rest of these action sequences. That's when it just kind of got away from me. And no one would have been able to tell except for me, and that's what really bothered me. Because I think that once it was finished, once the story had actually reached completion, you know, had started inking and working on, you know, the colors and getting my speech and dialogue and everything in there, then it would have just been, what's happening here? So what I want to do is look at now what can be salvaged from these pages. I like this. I like what's happening here. These last 2 pages. This is definitely what I want to have happen, these last 2 pages. Maybe this, maybe redesigned a little bit, especially with the vision I have in mind. I don't think there really was anything else that I wanted to hold on to or wanted to change or fix up, but kind of keeping with the things that we do have. So let's go ahead and move all of these things off to the side. Now, these are still some really great pages, and I'm not going to scrap them. I still want to hold on to them just in case this story turns into something, and maybe I can actually do something with these pages. Maybe I can actually do something with these characters in this way. I don't know. I doubt it, but we'll see. So we're just going to take them, and we're going to put them off to the side. So next, let's look at the pages that we're keeping. So this is a full page spread. This is broken down into different panels and fun things, and this, I like these. So we're going to go ahead and label our first page here. So we have here page 18, 19, and 20. All my books, you know, this story will be about 20 pages long, and we're going to do that. So let's look at this panel and say, what's going on here? Okay, so we have, oops, red pen. I use a red pen to help me do my layouts because it's kind of the lightest ink that I have available. And I'm using ink because I want to. So we have this character here, kind of in the rapture of whatever is going on. We just don't know yet. No, we do, but you know, we'll get to that as we tell the story. So we'll do something like this. Sorry, I scribble a lot. I'm setting up my layouts. We have a character here in the foreground. I kind of always do this, where I have characters in the foreground just kind of doing their thing. Just kind of there. Just trees back here. One of the main reasons why I really wanted to redo this story is just because I wanted to free myself up from, you know, how this original story was going. My layouts, I really wanted to free myself from that because, you know, there's a way that I want to tell this story and a way that I want to do the illustrations that wasn't really coming across with these pages, these original pages here. You know, panels, working in panels is kind of a new thing for me, and while I'm definitely open to it, I want to do it in a way that's actually going to be productive for me. So I might not even keep this page, but we'll work with it. Or, maybe I won't keep any of these pages. Maybe I will just say, let's redesign this book here entirely. I don't know. But I at least want to get myself back. I'm really just thinking. So we have, we're going to cut that in half. What's a great thing about these layouts is I can just draw lines all over the place, wherever. Let's see what else I've got going on here. Oops. Something like that. Here we come to this point where, this is what I'm thinking about. Like, do I really want to keep these pages? Because, they look good and, they're part of the story that I do like. In the past, when I've done any type of creative work, I usually go with whatever vision I have in my head. I kind of let myself be guided by that. So now that I've gone that far, the question is, do I still want to keep this? I don't know. We'll see. At least I have it there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start at the beginning. Now that's out of the way. How is this vision guiding me? Well, let's see. So let's talk through this. So what I wanted to have happen was, let's say, our characters. Let's just introduce our people. There was supposed to be this whole cinematic cityscape and all this other opening stuff. Nah, I don't want to do that. I want to introduce our people, our friends here. Once again, kind of everybody's sitting around at a table. Have our characters here coming over to sit at the table. House over here. Let me make sure I get my house layout together, because there's something specifically here. We're coming out of that back door, and I think I know exactly where everyone is now. So what I will now use is my black pen. Just kind of reblock these characters in here since I went a little crazy with the red. Normally I only use the black to block in the panels, but I wanted to make sure that I was actually seeing my characters here in the space. So now let's go through and introduce who our characters are. So everybody's kind of partnered up, but I want to make sure I've got, yeah, okay. We should have 8 people total in this area. So let's draw some grass because they're outside. Oh man, you know what? I realize. So the space where they are right now is at the home, the shared home of 3 of these characters. So 3 of these characters are, you know, actual related, 2 brothers and their cousin. They all live together in this one giant house, and their property is pretty huge. And so that's where they all are having this really fun outdoor party. They've invited their friends to just kind of hang out with them and everything. And so that's where they kind of are. But I forgot that there's also a little gazebo, this little thing where they can actually hang out and stuff. But, you know, it's not really necessary because we can just say, you know, they have a table and chairs outside too. They wanted to go out and enjoy the springtime, whatever. So we don't really have to go that far. However, I do want to make sure that I'm drawing the house as accurately as possible. So this is outdoor, the chimney right here from the house. Just knock all that stuff in there. Okay, so now in this page we're going to split this in half, and then that way again. We'll do that so we can actually introduce our paired characters. Maybe I want to do it in a different way. So I like this. I think this is a really great opening here. Yes, I want to do this a different way. I want to give all the characters more space to hang out with each other, to really show them off a little bit. So here in this first panel we have the main character, I think I named him Teos. You know, it's so funny because his name is still just kind of a work in progress as well. And I don't think I'll ever be happy with whatever name I give him, simply because he had no name for so long. Teos and Europa, each other's boyfriend, so that's great, that's fantastic, I love it. They are there. And then who are the next people that I want to introduce? Ah, yes, so I want to go with Belinda. And Europa's brother, Ganymede. So we'll introduce each of the characters as a pair. Not all of them actually are partners, but we'll introduce them as such. Well, not as such, but we'll introduce them as, you know, in pairs. That's what I'm trying to say. So let's say this is Teos and Europa. We have Ganymede and Belinda. You're actually seeing me scribble down some writing here. That's fine. Next, we are going to introduce Selin and Mahalia. They are also an actual couple. Wow, so in this group, I have actually 3 couples, like 3 legit couples. Yes, we are in a paired 2-person relationship. Can always tell Selin because he's got this fan out collar. It's kind of fun. I dig him. So this is Mahalia and Selin. And then finally the last group that's not actually a couple. We have Sisson and Tennessee. Not to say that they couldn't be a couple, but they're just not. It's just not a thing. Alright, so we've gotten that. Some visual separation there. Just, you know, tree branches. Oh, I forgot to draw Europa's daughter. There we go. This is a family gathering, so obviously his daughter should be there. His daughter is Katria. Okay. So back to the black pen. Just to do this. This way I know where everybody is in the panel and kind of getting an idea of how, how they're sitting with each other, their partnerships, where they are in the page. We'll do that. Katria is about 1. She's about 1. In case anyone was curious. What I want to do is have Belinda here reaching to take Katria, since they're sitting right here. And we have Halia and Selen here, and then finally Sisson and Ten are over there. So this means Yoruba and Tails right there. I will worry about what their bodies are doing or what their bodies look like when I'm actually drawing the pages. But for now, let's just kind of get them all gestured in there. Perfect. Okay. That was some extensive use of that black ink. So, next page. So let's look at this page, and this will give us some insight on where we can go with the next page. Obviously, I need to put some chairs in there for them so that they can sit down. Okay, so there we go with that. Next, let's look at It's the beauty of doing this type of layout, because as I said, this is how I'm writing the story as well. So there are a lot of quiet moments, and it's fine. As I have to really think through where the story is going and what's happening. So we have that is there, and since I'm off camera, you don't see me with my eyes closed here, as I'm trying to kind of see the story happening and telling itself. Let's do something like this. I think I'm finally getting what I want to do. It's a weird angle, but it's kind of an aerial view of the scene itself. There's a reason for that. So, in this story, we have the characters who are descendants of their people's warriors. And not just the descendants of their people's warriors, but also, who's here? Selen, Mahalia, Sisson, Ten. This is going to be Teos. We have Europa, Belinda. Okay. Draw some plates in front of everybody. And some bowls and stuff of food. I don't really have to get into much detail about that. Everybody should be, helping themselves. So they're descendants of their own their people in the modern world, just kind of living their lives. Some grass in here, and some things are going to start happening. And not just descendants of their ancient warriors, but they're the latest generations of their tribes in a modern world. So their country has grown over many, many generations of their people. And so this is where they are now in the modern age and who they get to be. And so they all come together just as friends do. The bigger story is about how they reclaim those ancestral roots and that ancestral power. And that will be because of this character here. I'm going to gesture in an owl. Overlooking them. Perfect. Next. What do we want to do? What do we want to do? We want to... I feel that we should draw in Teos here, since he is the primary character of the story. I don't know what I'm doing with his hair, so we'll just do that. And let's go ahead and frame everything in some context here. We've got the owl way up here. We've got everybody sitting at the table down here. We're going to put him right here. Belinda. Uncle Ganymede. And the baby. Right here. Let's draw their little chair that they're sitting on. Got our other characters over here doing their own thing. Oh, Selen's gonna lean in for a smooch on Belinda over there, and we've got our two giants over here. I say two giants, but really Tennessee is like the largest person in the group. He's a big dude, which is fun. So we'll put them in that chair. We've got this tree going on. We'll do that. I am going to block in the panels with a black pen just to make sure that that's in there properly. I don't really mind the negative space, the non-use space being there. It's fine. I think it'll pay for itself. So in my original books and any other comic story that I've told, I've often spent a lot of time just making these large splash pages to kind of move the story along. What ended up happening is that a lot of times I draw less and I can invest more into a particular scene, but the way that I have to move the story along, the story was slower. You know, it takes a little more to kind of get through the story itself, or, you know, I'm constantly changing scenes in such a way, or having to put more information into that particular page to tell, you know, the properly paced story. So the great thing about using panels is that it helps to manage the flow of the story without having, you know, these giant pages, and I can, you know, spend more time really, you know, focusing on character reactions as well as what each character is saying and the impact of that, and draw some really fantastic scenes as the result of that. So here, I think what I want to have happen is we have the owl spreading its wings. We'll cut that panel off right there. But she has made eye contact with a certain someone down here. No one else has noticed this owl sitting up there watching them except for Teos. Well, you know, I don't want to say no one. I like to think that Tennessee would notice it too, because she is kind of just up there. But actually, yeah, Tennessee would notice that. All right. And we're going to draw a panel right here of our owl friend. Screeching. Wings open. And let's draw the face of Teos as he looks up. Cock his head to the side. Draw Europa here, just kind of looking at him. Okay. Well, looking at Teos, actually. And this is at that point where the story really starts to just kind of unfold really quickly, once I kind of get into the swing of what I'm trying to do. You know what? I forgot to label my pages. There we go. This one. 4, 5, 6. I paused. You probably noticed I was just kind of holding the page here. So I'm thinking about actually reversing this a little bit. Making this our odd numbered page 5. And then perhaps turning this into a 2-page spread on 6 and 7. The idea is not necessarily to take up more space within the book, but to make sure that the page layout makes sense. So let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to say 4 and 5 are my facing pages. So page 4 here, page 5 here, my facing pages, and then we have page 6 there. Oh, you know what? I don't know why I'm doing that when I can just as easily do this. I don't need a ruler. Do I? Maybe. I want my ruler. Where is my ruler? I'm only being finicky just for a little bit because of the way I want to do this. Okay. So here we have page 4 and here we have page 5. So we'll do that. And now that we've done that, we can say, okay, so that means this is page 6. So it's an even numbered page. So we have 2 facing pages again. So we have page 6 and page 7. Okay. Yeah, I think I like that a whole lot better. It kind of keeps that unfolding in that way. Let's go ahead and scrap that because I definitely don't want that going that way. Alright, so now we have pages 8, 9, and 10. Look at that, we're almost halfway through. Love it. Well, almost half. I say almost halfway through. We really haven't done these pages yet. So let's look at what we've got so far. So I've got all my characters here. Our splash page and our 2 facing pages, the first 2 of those, and we have this we're turning into a 2-page spread. So we have page 4 on this side and page 5 on this side, trying to balance for the amount of characters on each page. So we have Europa, Belinda, Ganymede, and Mahalia on page 5, and Teos, Ten, Sisson, and Selen on page 4. So we have both of them there. And then we can plot out more of the scene a little bit. I may change the angle on that just a little bit, or shrink things down, or whatever. So we'll end up getting more of that background scene in there. And then here we have something happening on page 6, and then we have something happening on page 7. I don't know, I may decide that I want to take up more space, so maybe we'll do something like this. And since we have both pages 6 and 7 here facing, what we'll probably do is make him a little bigger here in this panel and make this tree take up more space so that we're seeing this. So just kind of, you know, reorient and equalize their measure there in the same way that we have it here. That actually works. So we'll do that. Next. So now we have page 8. Page 8 and 9 are facing pages. So what should be happening there? We want that owl to land on the table and just kind of startle everybody.
So let's draw it here. Wings spread out. Actually, we want to show it leaving the tree. So let's do that. And then right here, no, I don't want to do it that angle. I'm going to do it this angle. What I wanted to do was have Teos jump up as soon as our bird friend lands. Or actually, what would be really cool to do this instead. Yeah, we'll keep it at that. No, I was thinking out loud, and it was an incomplete thought. Something that I kind of considered doing was having the bird turn into our antagonist character. But the bird lands here, startles everyone at the table. But, you know, Teos is already up. And then over here, for more of the spacing page goodness, we see let's move Teos over here to this side. And I want to have us look at our owl here. I'm going to sneeze in a minute. Excuse me. So that is page 9. Thinking through this panel here, and about to sneeze again. Excuse me. Okay. What do I want to have in here in this next panel? Yeah. I want Europa to spring into action. Well, spring into action. I want him to do something here, and the owl reacts to him. So we'll do that. Alright, so page 10 is another... Now this should be facing page of page 11. So we'll do that. And that. So with that in place that way, Teos to throw his arm across Europa to kind of keep him away from the owl. Everyone else is kind of watching the scene. Nobody making any sudden movements at all, because nobody knows what this owl is about to do. Just gesturing their bodies here. So, in doing sketches like this, nothing really has to be, anatomically correct or whatever. Poses don't have to be perfect. We're just gesturing in the scene itself and what's supposed to be happening on the page. When we actually do the work of drawing, then we'll have everybody, looking anatomically proper. Even the owl here will be in the proper pose. Just gonna whatever's happening here. Bird explodes with light. Angrily explodes with light. Or explodes angrily with light. It's kind of erupting from its body. Page 12. I'm gonna keep on going. 14, 15, oops, and 16. I need to get Belinda in here on this side. So now on page 13, so we have that happening. I'm going to go back to labeling my characters here. So we have 10, we have Europa back there, we have Teos there, we have Sisson down here, we have Sullen here, we have Mahalia here, we have Gani right here, and we have Belinda right here. Okay. And I'm going to do that here too. This is really just to help me keep track of where everyone is as a scene unfolds. Alright, so I'll explodes what happens. Facing page here. I want everything is kind of bathed in light here. Doing that thing. And to bring in something new. actually... Instead of a cat, immediately, we're going to do this entirely differently. Do that. I hope my hair wasn't in the shot like it usually is. Okay. So we have Teos there. So we have our facing pages again. Now I'm just going to go ahead and label the rest of these pages. 17, 18, 19. What might happen, let me see where I am here in our story. So 1, 2, 3, and then we had a 2-page spread on 4 and 5. So why don't we do this? $18, $19, $20, 16 and 17. So we'll kind of mirror that 2-page spread thing happening here. I don't know what's going to go there, but we'll figure it out. So this scene is continuously bathed in light. And then we have whatever this little spark here. Teos, and then we want to see his face from the front. So he closes his hand around the spark itself, where he's reaching for it. He's got his own that's just kind of buzzing around him at this point. Oh yeah, this is exactly what I want to have happen. One of the things that I did do on stream, or did I make a video of it and just never post it? That's probably likely what also happened. You know, I did a illustration of Teos and, you know, kind of his ancient look. It's 14. It's right there. We have our facing pages. Do-do-do. So we have his little spark trailing around him like this, and basically forming a crescent around him, which is his symbol. As he grabs onto the spark here. And now we're about to do a 2-page spread. So what's supposed to go on this 2 pages here? We're gonna do that. Reorient the paper here. And this is basically how a 2-page spread really would look if I were using this layout properly. So we have our facing pages 16 and 17 right there. Oops, 16, not 17. 16 there, 17 there. And I guess that I do want him in the middle, like this. Or actually, on his own wings to be out. That's right, Teos gets wings too, you know. Probably not an entirely effective use of a 2-page spread, but whatever, it's my book. He clamps down on that thing, and we have the crescent here behind him. Perfect. I actually really like that. So, you know, we have our other characters here fading back into reality as the light dies down. We have Europa and Belinda on either side of him. Kind of huddled off and just kind of doing their thing, being so terribly affected by the light and the sound of that light, all that stuff. There's a lot that's happening here when the owl explodes, and really the only person who's not really affected, even though he actually is Teos. As I said, that name's a work in progress, but we'll just stick with it for now. So now, that brings us back to the sketches that we saved earlier. Pages 18, 19, and 20. Does it now make sense to use this? Let's look at where we came from. So, pages 16 and 17 right here, this 2-page spread, and then we come to this. Does it make sense? No, not really. Not visually, and certainly not as the progression of the story. So, it goes off to the side, and we're going to come up with something new for those last 3 pages. Putting this down here, so it'll help guide my decision-making process. We're almost there. We're almost there. that. And we're going to come back to a one-page thing. Actually, I do want to do this. So we have Teos here with his hands clasped in front of him. And his little sage horn up like that. His wings fade away. We have Sisson over here standing up, or at least looking up at him, and Belinda over here also looking up at him. And back here on this table, we're going to have Mahalia right there. We have Ganymede down there. Everyone did just kind of fall out. We have Sisson, or not Sisson, excuse me, Sellen, kind of leaning on Mahalia there for support. We have, let me just do it this way. So this is Europa here. This is Belinda here. Here is Ganymede. Here is Mahalia. Here is Sellen. Here is Sisson. And here is Ten. So we have two pages, or excuse me, two panels there on page 18. I want Teos's full face here because I want him to begin the process of opening up his hands. Let's see what he's actually holding on to. This. Have him open up his hands even more. And I want there just to be an owl feather in his hands. Keep drawing that horn of his beyond the page boundary. And to just kind of hold it in his hands. Over here also, I didn't mean to make this a separate panel. That should all be one panel right there. This should be Belinda. And right here we have Mahalia saying something. How am I going to do that? Because there's a bit that I want to put into this scene here. What do we want to do? This is it's not so much a dilemma as it is just a, well, no, it's a dilemma. I don't really know where I want to go for this, last panel here. If it's going to be one panel, it's going to be two. You know what? I think I know what I want to do. I want Belinda, or excuse me, Mahalia, to stop Belinda from reaching for this thing. She says, "No, don't touch it." Ominous look on her face as she realizes what this thing is. Okay, there, it's done. We got it. 20 pages of fantasy excitement with these characters. Actually, I do want to put Belinda back here on this side. Her hair is... She's got this giant halo around her because that's her fro. You get very clear that, yes, Belinda has a fro. I want her to have a fro, so she does. Alright, so we do that. Alright. And there we are. So we have pages 1, 2, and 3 as we introduce who our characters are and their relationships with each other. And then next we have our 2-page spread here, pages 4 and 5, as we introduce now our owl character, whom, you know what, is overlooking the scene. So let's go ahead and do one of these things, where our owl friend is just kind of here in the trees over page 5. There we go. And so that gestures that feature in there. So now we can jump over to page 6 and 7, our next 2 facing pages. Got that going from here to here. We've resized these 2 panels so that they take up more of the page. We'll just kind of mirror them on page 7. So we do that. And we have so much action happening here. Pages 8 through 9. I believe we brought the owl down from the tree. And now we have these characters here. Everybody's arrayed, well, not everybody, but Europa and Belinda are arrayed behind Teos here. And then we have the owl jumping into the air and then exploding in light. And then now we have Teos reaching for that light, and you know, his own body starts to erupt in light, and then this little thing starts buzzing around him. His own little light thing. And it forms a crescent around him, and then we have that just kind of gestured in there somehow. I don't know how, but we'll make it happen. And then, you know, the scene starts to calm down. Should we have, you know, who our characters are here? For some reason, I'm confusing Belinda and Mahalia. I have no reason to, but I am. And that is that. That is page 20. So remarkably less violence. And by less violence, I mean no one's getting stabbed. This is exactly the way I want it, at least for the first issue. I don't want anybody getting stabbed in the first issue. But, I don't know. It's arguable. Getting stabbed versus bird exploding really is less violent. Is that really less violent? But I think at least for now it's a better story. Also, I really do like the layouts as they are. It allows me to really kind of get the best of both worlds of my drawing techniques and my painting techniques, since I do hand-painted pages, everything's watercolored, and I'm able to, you know, really get some wide visions and some really great figural pieces out of this, and, you know, some really solid scenes by giving myself more space to work with, not
cutting everything down to a few panels, but I can also play with pages and the panel length and the scene length just to help move things along. And that's good. So the next time we get together, hopefully I should actually be drawing these pages actually onto my paper here. So we're gonna go with that. I want to thank you for joining me if you did, and hopefully you'll come back next time. I will be streaming. Again, I do intend to do this next week. You know how these stories go. I say, oh, I'm going to be streaming again next week, and then I never do. No, I'm going to make sure that I set aside time now to get in front of this camera, to get you guys to really see how this story is coming along. So I really, really do hope that you come by again to see what's going on. If I do upload a video of any kind, it'll probably be me just doing, laying out these panels in Photoshop just to kind of get everything squared up the way I want it to. So I don't know if I actually will do that, but at least the next time we do come back officially and live streaming, it'll be because, hey, we're actually drawing these pages in. So again, thank you for joining me if you did. If you really do enjoy seeing what I'm doing, please, please, please make a point to stop by again. I will be here next week. I will be here next week, next Saturday, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you there, and I can't wait to get started with this. So thank you everyone for coming by if you did, and I said this a number of times and I'm going to stop saying it now. Thank you. Take care.